The much-anticipated May 5th rematch was shelved because Canelo Alvarez tested positive for a banned PED. He's now been suspended 6 months for those doping violations. His suspension was reduced because it's his first violation and retroactively begins in February, allowing for that potential September rematch. Meanwhile, Gennady Golovkin isn't waiting till then to catch hands. Triple G going to face late substitute Vanes Martirosyan on May 5th in Carson, California. The fight will be a major reduction in his purse, but Triple G will now go for a division record-tying 20th title defense. Golovkin 37-0-1 with 33 knockouts in his career. That one draw, Canelo Alvarez. I'm Kerry Chow. Back to First Take.
Kenny, thank you. So there's a report in BoxingTalk.com, guys, that illustrates how it was actually Triple G's attorney who wrote a letter that forced the Nevada Athletic Commission's hand in suspending Canelo Alvarez. Max, how does Canelo's suspension make Triple G look given this report?
Well, given the report, it makes Triple G look good, but the fallout in the short term makes Triple G look bad. Because rather than fighting Derevyanchenko, his mandatory in one of the sanctioning bodies, which I won't mention because I'm not crazy about any of the sanctioning bodies, but he's a unified champion. So in order to, instead of defending it against a good technical fighter, undefeated on his way up, who poses a threat, he's defending against Martirosyan, who's a well-known fighter in boxing circles, but a junior middleweight, hasn't fought in a couple of years, and is very unlikely to pose a stiff challenge to Triple G. And the reason that makes Triple G look bad in the short term, Molly, is because for years he was the most avoided fighter in the sport. None of the big stars wanted to fight Triple G, really, except Andre Ward, who was bigger and better. Otherwise, no one wanted to go near him. And suddenly, it looks as though he's the fighter avoiding. Because rather than fight his mandatory against a stiffer challenge, he's taking an easier sort of tune-up fight to keep people interested, in which he'll likely look very good, so to keep people interested in against Canelo. And that's to say nothing of the fact that they're not going to fight someone like Demetrius Andrade or one of the Charlo brothers or someone like that who there may be promotional issues, etc., or maybe they don't think they're available or not worth the money right now, but they're better fighters than Martirosyan, and certainly in Andrade's case, they're willing to fight right now. People understand you don't fight that guy right now in a kind of in-between fight, but then why aren't you fighting your mandatory? So the short term is, it looks bad for Triple G, the fallout of all this. Of course, once he beats up Martirosyan, if that's in fact what happens, people will forget all about it, and he'll go back to being Triple G, the guy that everyone wants to see.
I think it makes Triple G look bad all the way around, short-term and long-term from this perspective, Max Kellerman. Obviously, he's not the one that tested positive, basically for bad meat or whatever you want to accredit the positive test from Canelo Alvarez to. But the bottom line is that when you look at Triple G, it would be one thing if you were refusing to fight the guy. You had every intention of fighting the guy, but you wanted to point out how, he looked during the last fight. So it wasn't just that Canelo tested positive. It was the noise that Triple G was making, not just leading up to the rematch that was scheduled for Cinco de Mayo, but it was also you deferring or referring, rather, back to what transpired the night that the draw took place. I thought Triple G won that fight. Obviously, you had a bogus judge, and she was asleep at the wheel, and what happened. But he talked about spots on Canelo's body and talked about how Canelo looked or what have you. So you brought into question whether or not Canelo was fair for the first fight. And when you have that going on, now you've brought skepticism up in all of our mind's eye, not to mention the fact that you set the stage. If I lose to this guy, don't wonder why. The draw that took place in terms of me not failing to knock him out, you see why it probably happened? All of those things convolute the issue. And I'm not saying that he was wrong to do it, because it's a pugilistic sport. It's violent. You can get killed up in that ring. And certainly you don't need anybody cheating. Please don't get me wrong. And by the way, I watched the fight game last night with my man Jim Lampley. Exceptional as always, Max Kellerman. He's just the best. But here's the deal. In the end, what it comes down to is that you're bringing up all these questions. It's one thing for them to find something out, but all of this chirping is delegitimizing the competition to some degree that we witness. Some of us might be hyped to see it again because, okay, now Canelo's going to really try to get him and Triple G's going to be ready, but still referring to the last fight and bringing in all these questions, that doesn't help.
Well, I'll tell you why it's not bad, Stephen A.
Okay.
I'll tell you why that's not bad. I'll tell you why in the long run it's not bad. Because it's a grudge match now. It went from a competitive, hotly contested in terms of the decision. Most people felt Triple G won. It was a draw. I thought a draw was defensible. I also thought Triple G won. The point is it goes from just an exciting rematch with exciting styles and big names in a good matchup to, on top of that, a grudge match. And incidentally, Triple G's fighting Martirosyan. I'm calling the fight, of course, May 5th. Martirosyan's a good fighter. He hasn't fought in a while. He's a junior middleweight. He's a big underdog, but he's a good fighter, and he makes good fights. So if Triple G is in a good fight in which he looks dominant, people will tend to forget the details leading up. And what they'll be thirsty for is to see Triple G in the ring again as soon as possible against Canelo. And, of course, a November fight is now possible, given the 6-month suspension.
Possible. It would be better for him, though, Max, if he was fighting a better opponent. The fact that the opponent is so suspect, that might give credence to my argument. But I hear what you're saying. I'll defer to you.
You want to be hungry. Never want to be thirsty, though. LeBron, good. The rest of the Cavs, not so much. Who needs to be called out as the series shifts to Naptown? Don't miss that. And the NFL releases their 2018 regular season schedule tonight. The night will break down the defending champs' road to repeat. That's tomorrow on First Take.